there, movie fans. Welcome to a brand new episode of FYC. We are less than a month away from the Academy Awards on March 12th, 2023, the 95th Academy Awards. And we are really sort of getting into that home stretch. Mile 26.2 is kind of in the distance there. Joining me as always here on FYC, the amazing Perri Nemiroff and the mighty Jeff Snyder. There is a whole lot to talk about in this brand new FYC, which, by the way, I just want to say this time I'm doing the show from my iPhone because the internet, the power is out. There's an outage in my area, but nothing will stop FYC from moving forward. We got a lot to get to.
The show must go on.
The show must go on. Exactly. First rule of show business. Let's get to the BAFTAs. The BAFTAs took place. And so where do we begin? Let's start with the winner for Best Picture. All Quiet on the Western Front. Perri, what's your take on the winner of the top prize at the BAFTAs?
So I'm kind of going to repeat what I said the last time we spoke about All Quiet's chances. And I think this is just reinforcing that is its stock has been rising for a little while now. I think they ramped up that campaign at the perfect time, and I think they're playing their cards right at this point. And it's a pretty big win. It's not necessarily a big enough win for me to all of a sudden start saying, "Oh, All Quiet is a front runner to win Best Picture," because I don't think that is the case. I do think it's going to win International Feature and lose Best Picture, but this does work in its favor. It's just not enough to actually get me to say that it's going to win in other categories at the Oscars.
All right, Jeff, what's your take? All Quiet. How does that bode for the Academy Awards for the top prize?
I mean, I think it is a real dark horse. Like I said last week, I placed a bet at 33-1 odds on All Quiet on the Western Front a week or two ago, just because I sensed a little bit of a surge coming on. I think just people, have been catching up with it since the end of the year. I don't feel like it ended the year where like a lot of people had seen it, but like in these last 2 months, that's why Oscar season is dragged out so that voters can catch up on these movies. And I think that has really benefited All Quiet on the Western Front, which also plays well at home on your TV. It's not like it's not, even though it's obviously better on a big screen, it's not something you have to see on the big screen.
Agreed. I mean, I have seen it on a big screen at just like an FYC Q&A, but, I watched it for the first time at home. I think it's a great movie, one of the very best of 2022, but it's the only Best Picture nominee out of the 10 that is exclusive to a streaming service. And some other things to note about the BAFTAs. So the BAFTAs and the Oscars have 19 categories in common. Last year, out of those 19 common categories, they had 15 winners in common. The year before that, they had 18 winners in common. Here's another interesting stat that I think is really, really important to keep in mind. So before 2000, the BAFTAs took place after the Academy Awards. In the year 2000, the BAFTAs moved to take place before the Academy Awards. And since then, the BAFTAs have predicted the winner for the Best Picture Oscar only 9 out of 22 times. Last year is one of those years where the BAFTA went to Power of the Dog and the Oscar went to Coda. And in the last 5 years, the BAFTA predicted the Best Picture Oscar only once, when they both went with Nomadland, a movie that no one's really watching anymore. But only one win, I have to say, for the Oscar frontrunner for Best Picture, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once. That only won one BAFTA award for editing. Now, Jeff, how do you think after all this momentum, moving forward, especially after the DGA win, which we'll get to, how do you think the sort of underwhelming showing for Everything Everywhere at the BAFTAs will play out moving forward for that film?
I don't think it matters very much. I don't really think that Everything Everywhere was counting on this BAFTA contingent to win Best Picture, at the Academy Awards. Would it have liked to have placed better? Sure. I think one of those acting prizes may have, really helped. But at the same time, like Banshees of Inisherin, it's a European film. I'm not surprised that BAFTA went for Barry Keoghan and Kerry Condon.
Perri, what do you think? Do you think that just sort of being an also ran at the BAFTAs will affect any of the momentum moving forward with Everything Everywhere?
No, and I think we're going to be having the exact opposite type of conversation after the SAG Awards come and go. We'll get to that later in this episode, but I think it's still perfectly fine. I think it's going to continue going strong. And, I'm not going to lie, there are some surprise winners in this BAFTA list, but I am not all that surprised that Everything Everywhere didn't have as big of a showing as it has elsewhere.
Well, the best director went to Edward Berger for All Quiet on the Western Front. He's not even nominated for a best director Oscar, but lead actress for Cate Blanchett, not a surprise there. I think the bigger surprise was for lead actor, which went to, of course, Austin Butler for Elvis. Perri, what's your take on that? Because I do think that will affect the momentum going forward for the lead actor Oscar.
So I'm still leaning towards Brendan Fraser here. I still think he's doing everything right and has a significant amount of support. But as I've said in the last couple of weeks, the gap between him and Colin Farrell has been getting smaller and smaller. And now with this, I have to apply the same thought to Austin Butler. And, we've been talking about this for a while. It's always been Brendan, Colin, and Austin in the top tier, the three that actually do have a chance to win compared to the other two, but I'm still not willing to commit to the idea that Austin Butler has a better chance over, I don't know, maybe he's closer to Colin Farrell than I'm willing to admit, but I still think it's Brendan Fraser's Oscar to lose.
Oh, interesting. Jeff, what about you? What do you think of Austin Butler winning the BAFTA? How does that bode for him potentially winning the Oscar?
I am ready to put Austin over Colin Farrell on lists. I mean, I think that BAFTA win, like if Colin Farrell can't win at BAFTA, like that was a bit of a surprise. Like
exactly.
If he was going there, that's where he would have won. So I think Austin does have a really good chance. And again, Elvis seen by a lot more people than The Whale, right? But I keep coming back to the narrative and everything, and just how young Austin Butler is. And I don't think that they're going to give him Best Actor for that role when he's up against Colin Farrell and Brendan Fraser. My money's still on Fraser.
Listen, what you said just now, Jeff, is actually a pretty big deal. That going into the BAFTAs, Colin Farrell was like the one to beat. I mean, he was like, this movie just seemed like it was right up the BAFTAs alley, and then Austin Butler playing, Elvis this is an American film. Now, as you know, I mean, we've talked about Elvis, since the beginning of this season of FYC here on Perri Nemiroff's YouTube channel, which is your cue to hit the subscribe button right now. And big thanks to our sponsor, Above the Line. But anyway, I digress. I have really been a big champion of Elvis from the beginning. And I agree. I do think that it's been these three actors, Austin Butler, Brendan Fraser, and Colin Farrell. But because I've been sort of hope dicting anyway, kind of that for Elvis, and I've been really supporting Elvis, and this BAFTA win for Austin Butler puts my support of him and my prediction that he will win the Oscar for Best Actor kind of over the top. Of course, it all sort of depends on how this weekend will play out. We'll get into that. But regardless, two supporting wins for Banshees of Inisherin, and especially one of them was a big surprise. Perri, what's your take on Barry Keoghan winning for Banshees Supporting Actor BAFTA over the one who's been winning everything, Ke Huy Quan?
Yeah, that was
over Brendan Gleeson too.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing. I posted a little TikTok video the other day, and in my personal rankings in terms of best chance to win, I reversed Barry and Brendan because of this. And it does seem like Barry has had a little more of the promotional spotlight, or I don't know, at least as far as the social media algorithms, determine the content that I'm getting. I see way more Barry than Brendan. So maybe his stock really is rising more so than Brendan's. But I think this was, as happy as I am for him, I think this was his win, and now it is back to Ke Huy Quan for the rest of the season. I don't really think this is changing anything, but in terms of Kerry Condon, it does kind of reinforce to me that she is my number 2 still behind Angela Bassett.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything you just said. Jeff, what's your take on that?
I've been saying it for weeks, man. As good as Angela Bassett was in that movie, and she was good, I just don't think they're going to give it to a Marvel performance. I just don't.
I don't
So I
think
disagree.
anyone's thinking about it that way.
I think it's a supporting actress, even though, Kerry Condon won for Banshees for the BAFTA, which I'm not surprised about. I still think that, there are certain categories, there are certain winners at the BAFTAs where I think that the win will help their win at the Oscars, like Austin Butler. But I think in the case of supporting actress, especially, I still think that Angela Bassett is the one to beat for Black Panther. That's what I'm sticking with for supporting actress. Perri?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Angela. I'm not shifting as of yet, but of course, as we'll get to later in the show, the SAG Awards are right around the corner. Depending on how those go, that could reshape some of my acting predictions.
Well, let's move on to the DGAs. The Directors Guild Awards were also announced over the weekend. Big winner going to Daniel Kwan and Daniel Shiner for Everything Everywhere All at Once. They're the third directing team in DGA history in 75 years to win the DGA award. The first two were Robert Wise and Jerome Robbins for West Side Story, and of course Joel and Ethan Coen for No Country for Old Men. Now, the DGA winner is a big predictor for the Oscar for Best Director. Only 8 times out of the previous 74 years of the DGA did the winner of the DGA not go on to win the Oscar for Best Director. So, Jeff, what's your take? I mean, doesn't this kind of just like seal the deal for the Daniels, but also what happened to Spielberg?
Stop making that face, Jeff.
It's a good question. I don't think it seals the deal for the Daniels. I think this is still a very tight race. Jeez, I mean, what happened to Steven? It's a great question. It's clearly Fabelmans has lost a lot of momentum. I mean, everybody sort of thought this was Steven's award to lose. But then again, like, he hasn't gotten a ton of nominations over the last 15 years, right? I mean, a lot of Oscar bait that he made was kind of ignored by the Academy. I don't know if they hold him to a higher standard. The DGA may have just been looking for some fresh blood. I think that, when you open it up to the entire Academy membership, I think that Spielberg will pick up some more votes, but it's going to be close.
All right. Excellent points. Perri, what's your take on, same question for you. Does the DGA win for the Daniels seal the deal, and what happened to Spielberg?
Yes, the Daniels are still firmly my number one at the Oscars, and they have been for a while. I do have to be honest and admit, Jeff, I have to blame you for this. I started to doubt myself a little, and I switched my prediction to Spielberg for the DGA. I'm like, maybe it will go Spielberg for DGA, and then they'll get the Oscar. And then sure enough, I would have been right if I had just stuck with my gut. But anyway, yeah. I think this race is done. There's a lot of great directors in this category. It's felt to me like the Daniels and Everything Everywhere in general has had a little bit of a distance, a pretty solid edge on most of the competition. And I think it's very true and extremely apparent in this category at this point. They are my predicted winner at the Oscars.
I got to say, I felt like the fact that Spielberg, who going into this Oscar season, it was weird. It was weird, Perri and Jeff, because The Fabelmans was not like the clear front runner to win Best Picture, but yet Spielberg was still being talked about how it's a lock and he's the one to beat for Best Director. There are two different conversations, but the movie didn't direct itself. So I just think it's really interesting how this movie, The Fabelmans, which premiered in Toronto and won the top prize, the People's Choice. So now this is the cautionary tale of winning the top prize at the Toronto International Film Festival, because then you have to maintain your distance for 7 months, and that's something that has been the problem for a lot of films. They just haven't been able to maintain that momentum. But I think it is a sign of the times, a sort of changing of the guard, if you will, that the DGA did not honor Spielberg for making a movie about his own upbringing, his own inspiration for becoming the greatest filmmaker who ever lived, and they give it to the Daniels, it's like, such a gonzo film, but it deserves it. So I think in this case, I'm more leaning towards Perri's camp here, that the Daniels have it locked for Best Director now. I don't think it's so close for Spielberg at this point, which is really too bad. But I do think that it was definitely I stayed up until the winner was announced because I just had to know who's going to win Best Director. So that was very, very interesting. But now we have to pick, rank, do what we've been doing these last few weeks, rank the best directors in terms of our personal preference before we predict who's going to win. So with that, Jeff, who was number 5 on your list of best directors?
Oh God. Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. Yeah. I mean, I just think I like that movie. I recommended it to my brother and his in-laws, and they turned it off about halfway through with all the vomit.
Wow.
Yeah, they were not prepared for where that was going. So I was like, I love the third act. Like, you didn't get to see Dolly De Leon. No. But the whole, I feel like Triangle of Sadness is a really great screenplay, but I don't think that Ruben has any chance to win Best Director.
Perri, where is Ruben on your list?
Ruben is number 3 on my personal list, but I do think he's the person who has the least likely chance of winning the Oscar. He was, going into the nominations announcements, he was the surprise nominee here, definitely the most surprising of the 5. And while I love that movie, I feel like at this point in the Oscar campaigning process, if someone isn't like absolutely surging in his position, then it's just not going to happen. And again, as we've said, this award is feeling kind of locked.
Yeah. I have Ruben Östlund at number 5 on my list as a personal favorite among the nominees, but also as a likely winner. He is 5th on my list. I mean, I did love Triangle of Sadness, and Jeff, I understand why your friend didn't, wasn't for. It does take a very weird turn. It's not a movie I'm probably going to watch again. The middle part is really, really disturbing. But hey, he did get nominated, and I think in Ruben Östlund's case, the nomination is the win for him. All right, Jeff, who's number 4 on your list?
Number 4 on my personal list is Martin McDonagh. Just because, I mean, it's a beautiful film. I love how he presented Banshees of Inisherin, but to me, it's more of a screenwriter's movie, right? That movie's in the dialogue, it's in the story, the plot, the characters. I just didn't think of it as like a directorial tour de force, so I have him at 4. Okay,
Perri, where is Martin McDonagh on your list?
He is my personal 5. I don't need to repeat it. Everybody knows how I feel about Banshees, but he is probably my number 3 in terms of chances to win, strictly because I think, Triangle of Sadness is the surprise nominee, least likely to win. And then when I'm weighing Banshees versus Tar, and I can build off of all the BAFTA wins that Banshees just has, I think there's just more support for Banshees overall in general compared to Tar. So that's why I personally rank the 2 of them that way in terms of chances to win.
I have Martin McDonagh at number 3 on my list. I was going back and forth between my number 3 and 4, who I'll get to in a moment. But the reason I went with Martin McDonagh higher on my list, Jeff, I agree with you. I think Banshees of Inisherin is definitely a writer's film, and it is also an actor's film, which is why 4 of the actors got nominated for acting Oscars. But ultimately, I went with Martin McDonagh for number 3 as a personal favorite, and also as the 3rd likely to win the director Oscar because of the tone of the film and the way the tone gradually shifts from something more quirky and lighthearted at the beginning to something more serious and potentially violent in the last part. And I think that gradual shift in tone, and also just the feel, the location and all that, the other world, Inisherin just being this mythical place. It's almost like a character in the film. So that's why I went with Martin McDonagh at number 3.
I got to tell you, I'm very surprised that you guys don't have Todd Field at 3. Very surprised.
Well, maybe Todd Field has a better position here. Jeff, who was number 3 on your list? Yeah. Jeff,
I
who's
have
number three on your list?
Todd Field at 3. I mean, I think he got an incredible performance out of her. I think the movie it is Kubrickian, right? It's just impeccably directed. I think he did a great job, but he definitely hasn't had the same profile as the Daniels or Spielberg this season. And the movie is a little divisive, so I have him at 3 for those reasons.
All right, Perri, where is Todd Field on your list?
Todd Field is my number 4 personally and my number 4 in terms of chances to win, strictly because if I was asked right now, which movie would you rather watch, Triangle of Sadness or Tar, I would probably pick Triangle of Sadness. And then in terms of his chances to win, I just echo what Jeff said. It just does not seem like there's enough momentum behind that campaign. Forget even just the win at this point, but to propel him above some of the people that I have over him.
Okay, I have Todd Field at number 2 on my list. And that is a number 2 personal favorite, a number 2 likely to win because, Jeff, you took the words right out of my mouth. This is this Kubrick movie. I've said that many times before here on FYC. But the more I've seen Tar, especially now that it's on Peacock and I watched it again, I also went to a screening at the Academy Museum that was moderated by a composer, Gustav Dudamel, which was definitely an eye-opening conversation that made me appreciate the film even more. I think this is a movie that gets better with repeated viewings, and I just think it is a masterpiece movie and one that will continue to get better as time goes on. So Todd Field is my number 2, but Jeff, who was your number 2?
I really do think the Daniels directed the hell out of everything everywhere. Like, I may not have flipped for the movie like everybody else. I liked it, but they did an incredible job. Am I ready to? No, they're still number 2 on my list. I just don't see. I can't put them over Spielberg. I can't.
Are you talking about your personal list right now, or their chance? Okay. That's fair.
I put them at number 2. I just love. How do I talk about 2 without talking about 1? I just love the way that Steven, brought his childhood back to life and capture. It was more than just capturing this nostalgic feel. Whereas the Daniels, the action was obviously amazing, and they got these great character arcs out of everybody, but. I don't know. It's just I can't put the dildo fight hot dog finger movie over Fabelmans. There's a part of my brain. There's a blockage.
All right, Perri. Who does number 2 work for on your list?
Number 2 on my personal list and on my chances to win list is definitely still Steven Spielberg. It's weird talking about Spielberg directing the Fabelmans and the Daniels directing Everything Everywhere All at Once, because you can't have 2 more polar opposite types of movies, just this bonkers, wacky, one of a kind thing, and then you have this story about filmmaking with a really warm and more classic feel to it. And I do think both of them are exceptionally well done, but personally, I have been getting, and this could change on any given day, depending on what mood I am, what I've been through, how I feel. Personally, right now, I find myself feeling more electrified by seeing filmmakers who break the mold and show me new possibilities that I never even realized was there before. So my number 2 is firmly Steven Spielberg.
Spielberg is number 2 on my list for likely to win, but he's number 4 on my personal list. And I say that with a heavy heart because Spielberg is my favorite director of all time. But I think, he also was nominated last year, Jeff, for West Side Story. But I just feel like, the support for Spielberg in this category is more because it's his story than the fact that it's a groundbreaking or really truly outstanding directorial achievement. I think it's a really good film and I love the movie, but I think when you compare Fabelmans to Tar, I think Tar is a much better film directorial wise. So And look, I was ready to go with Spielberg to win the Oscar for Best Director, but there was something inside of me that said, like, I don't know, I kind of feel like this might be like a part of the whole thing that really sort of kicked the door open when Parasite kicked the door open. Even though 1917 won Best Director at the DGA and Parasite won Best Director and the other Best Picture and so on, I started thinking my spider sense is tingling with Spielberg to win the Oscar for Best Director. I think it might actually be the Daniels for Everything Everywhere, and that is what happened. And I just think it's amazing that this movie that premiered, 11 months ago at South by Southwest, now you have, these co-directors winning the DGA for Best Director, putting them right in the hot seat to win the Oscar for Best Director. So let's move on to the fact that this Saturday we have.
Before we do though, so do you guys think that Everything Everywhere is now going to win Best Picture and Best Director?
I do, yes.
No, I don't. And I'll get to that when we get into the Producers Guild Awards. So the Producers Guild Awards are happening this Saturday, and the nominees are Avatar, Banshees, Black Panther, Elvis, Everything Everywhere, The Fablemans, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, and The Whale. Perri, let's just cut to the chase. Who's winning the Producers Guild Award for Best Picture?
So I've thought through a couple different possibilities, and I very much see a world where Top Gun Maverick comes out on top at the PGA Awards, and our next FYC is like, oh, is Top Gun Maverick's chances increasing over Everything Everywhere because they won the PGA Awards? And like, yeah, I got to put some weight into that scenario proving true. But then I still see Everything Everywhere all at once winning the Oscar. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is I am leaning towards that happening. I'm kind of like going with my gut feeling here. And I do think that overall Top Gun Maverick has been pushing really, really hard to honor the production as a whole. We could go back to our Tom Cruise Best Actor conversations in that respect. And I think that where it gets a big honor is going to be from this particular guild. And, maybe it'll also reflect what we were discussing a little bit last week where, Top Gun Maverick was an especially effective, jolt to the industry that I think many appreciated. So I think it's going to get honored here for that, but I don't necessarily think if that happens, it's going to change my prediction for Best Picture at the Oscars.
All right, Jeff, who's winning the PGA for Best Picture?
I think it's going to be Top Gun. I think, just based on the grosses and the way it did sort of reignite the box office and also just how good the movie is, I think it's going to win. And I don't think it's going to be particularly close either, as the PGA, the producers just value money. They value box office. Is that going to affect, Best Picture? No, I kind of can't stand that where like after every single major award, it's like, well, whoever won that award, they're now the new frontrunner. So I think Perry's right in that regard. I think after the nominations, Oscar nominations, Everything Everywhere was sort of the clear frontrunner for Best Picture, and then Spielberg was the frontrunner for Best Director. I'm predicting a reverse split now. Or I think you're right that the Daniels are going to win Best Director, but I still don't think that Everything Everywhere is going to win Best Picture. I just have a hard time buying that movie winning both those top two awards.
So here's the deal. So the Producers Guild are voted for using the same preferential ballot that the Academy Award for Best Picture is voted for. So you're comparing apples to apples in the sense that they both vote for Best Picture in the same way. They rank all 10 movies. It's not like they just pick one and winner take all like the other 22 Oscar categories. Now, I think if Top Gun Maverick is really going to show its support during this award season, the Producers Guild Award win will be the way to do it, the best way between now and the big day on March 12th. I think that it is going to win the Producers Guild because of what Jeff was saying, because it was a film that meant a lot to this business. And, we talked about this many times, but for people who waited to go back and this was the movie they saw and they were rewarded with a movie that was actually pretty damn amazing, I think that this is where Top Gun will win. Now, if it's not Top Gun, it's Everything Everywhere. It's really one of those two films. And I think Everything Everywhere does have a good shot to win. But I just think that, okay, it's been winning everywhere else. It won the DGA, won the Critics' Choice, and so on, whatever. But I think that, okay, it's the PGA, preferential ballot. Everyone loves Top Gun. And Everything Everywhere is still a little bit divisive. And regarding, does the Producers Guild Award affect the winner? Yeah, I think it does. I mean, didn't Coda win the Producers Guild Award last year and then go on to win the Best Picture Oscar? I think it did. But regardless, the PGA is a good predictor and same type of preferential ballot. So I do think that if Top Gun does win the PGA, it will win the Oscar for Best Picture. But
if it doesn't, it's dead in the water. It's dead, right?
What if Top Gun wins the PGA?
Top Gun doesn't win the PGA, then it's definitely not winning.
Yeah,
Best Picture.
I think it's only definitely not winning Best Picture if Everything Everywhere All at Once wins PGA, then I think it's done. But if Everything Everywhere doesn't win, then I think it's more of a surprise, and we wind up with a bigger group that we are realistically discussing as potential Oscar winners.
I agree. If Top Gun doesn't win the PGA, then and Everything Everywhere does, then I think personally I think that it's done. Everything Everywhere is going to win, but I do think that Top Gun's going to win the PGA.
Do you think Elvis has a chance or no?
Absolutely, yes, it does. There's
PGA.
A lot of support for Elvis. I think it didn't make as much worldwide as Top Gun did, but it still made almost 300 million worldwide. It was another film like Top Gun that brought people back to the movies. More. Like we've been called out on this in the comments section that oh, you keep talking about how Top Gun brought people back to the movies. What about Spider-Man? What about Batman? Yeah, those movies brought people to the movies, but the superhero movies drew younger moviegoers who really didn't care about COVID. The difference with Top Gun and with Elvis is that it brought back grown-ups. It brought back Gen Xers and older people who avoided the movies until these two films. So that's the difference here. So shall we move on to predicting the winners of the SAG Awards? Perri, let's start with you for Outstanding Supporting Female Actor. The nominees are Angela Bassett, Hong Chow, Kerry Condon, Jamie Lee Curtis, Stephanie Hsu. Who's winning?
Supporting actress, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sticking with my my Oscar prediction here. I think Angela Bassett's going to take this and going to take the Oscar.
I agree. Jeff, Outstanding Supporting Female Actor.
I'll go Angela Bassett again.
All right, I'm picking Angela Bassett.
It's such a big group of people, right? I mean, I think there's probably more support for Black Panther within SAG than there is the Academy.
I agree. I'm sticking with my Oscar prediction for Supporting Female Actor, Angela Bassett. Let's move on to Outstanding Supporting Male Actor. I think this one's in the bag, Jeff.
Ke Huy Quan.
Yeah. Hello, Perri. I mean,
Done.
come on.
Over.
Yeah.
It's been over.
Yeah, it's been over. Who cares about the BAFTAs? In this case, Ke Huy Quan is going to win this, and he's going to win the Oscar. All right, Perri, Outstanding Female Lead Actor. The nominees are Cate Blanchett, Viola Davis, Ana de Armas, Danielle Deadwyler, and Michelle Yeoh. Perri, who's winning?
I am still leaning towards Cate Blanchett here, but even if Cate Blanchett takes this award after taking BAFTA, I'm still not ruling Michelle Yeoh out. I think there is a potential Oscar surprise in the cards, but for SAG, I'm sticking with Cate Blanchett.
Jeff, who's winning Outstanding Female Lead Actor?
Let's get crazy.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to go Michelle Yeoh for SAG.
Okay.
Okay, why?
Why? I just think people really liked Everything Everywhere more than Tar. I think, I don't know, man. I don't know. I want to shake it up. I want to do something different. I think Cate Blanchett's going to win the Oscar, but I think Michelle Yeoh makes it a real race by winning SAG.
Well, I think that Everything Everywhere is going to win a lot of awards at the SAG Awards. I'm not exactly sure if Outstanding Female Lead Actor, lead actress, is the one that's going to go to Everything Everywhere. I'm leaning towards Cate Blanchett. I think if there is, I wouldn't say an upset, But if Blanchett does not win, I think Michelle Yeoh will win in this category. And I'm still, hope thinking that she wins the Oscar, but I don't know. I'm not ready to call that one for lead actress yet. But for this conversation, this is tough, but this is what makes it fun. Yeah, I'm a SAG voter, and I didn't vote for either one of those actresses. I'm not telling you who I voted for, but this was a hard category to. But I went with who I wanted to win, not who I thought was going to win. So I had to sort of shift my brain in that respect. But I think Cate Blanchett's going to win lead actress at the SAGs. She won the BAFTA, even with all the controversy surrounding, Riseborough, Andrea Riseborough. I still think that Cate Blanchett gave the performance.
I mean, she gave the performance of the year, and I think the European contingent was always going to go for Tar, for her over Michelle Yeoh. But I don't know, man.
All right, Jeff. Outstanding male lead actor. Who's winning? You got Austin Butler, Colin Farrell, Brendan Fraser, Bill Nye, Adam Sandler. Who's winning here?
Oh God. Who is winning? Go to Perri.
Okay.
No. All right. Okay, Perri.
I'll happily take this.
All right.
So you all know that I've been putting Brendan Fraser at the top of most of my list, so it's no surprise. And I don't want this comment to come across like this is reflective of the entire SAG voting body, but I did have the pleasure of moderating that career retrospective, and I've moderated a couple things in that SAG room. I have never seen a standing ovation and felt the electricity in one of those crowds quite like what happened when he walked out onto that stage. I mean, really, maybe in my entire career moderating things, things where I can see a live audience and can see how enthusiastic about the person that they've come to hear speak. That was different. That felt different. And it's one of those things that I don't want to forget because it felt so special. Brendan Fraser is my pick to win.
Okay, Jeff, back to you.
Oh God, I just want to say something to be different.
Just predict the winner.
I think Brendan Fraser is going to win.
Listen, Perri, I think your Q&A with Brendan hit right at the right time, and your that conversation is going to be seen by SAG voters. But I did a Q&A with him a couple weeks ago, and it was virtual, it wasn't in person. But I just think that there's more. I just feel like the tide has been changing towards Austin Butler, and then when he won the BAFTA, I went, wow, that's actually pretty huge. Banshees of Inisherin and The Whale take place like within a few days, whereas Elvis takes place over the course of like more than 22 years. So in addition to singing and dancing and acting the hell out of that performance, Austin Butler had to age basically more than 22 years. And I think that's a lot of things that maybe Academy SAG voters in this case will take into consideration. But look.
Just predict the winner.
Look, Perri, listen, Perri, I know what it's like to moderate a Q&A and see the reaction from people and be like, oh my God, that person's winning. To be too close to it and not see it objectively. But I don't know. This is really, really tough. I do think it's between Austin Butler and Brendan Fraser. I think it's going to go with Austin Butler in this one. Yeah, I do.
For what it's worth, I still would have been picking Brendan Fraser today, even if I had never experienced that Q&A.
Right. But I get it. I mean, I know what it's like to be in the room and like have that affect your opinion predicting. But I mean, look, you could be right. Again, the timing of a career retrospective in that room where it's professionally shot and all the SAG voters are going to watch that thing, that could have a very, very big factor.
It's a close race.
It's a close race for sure. All right. Outstanding cast in a motion picture. Babylon, Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere, The Fabelmans, Women Talking. Jeff, who's winning best cast in a motion picture?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yep. Okay, Perri?
I am right there with Jeff, and that's part of the reason why I went Kate Blanchett over Michelle Yeoh. I think Ke Huy Quan does have it locked, but in some of the more competitive acting categories, I can see maybe the mentality being give it to the entire ensemble over an individual if there is another contender that you really want to vote for. And I think the Banshees of Inisherin is probably the close second in this category, but I just see there being more support for Everything Everywhere.
Look, Banshees of Inisherin and Everything Everywhere, the Fablemans are the three that I would say had the best shot at winning for best cast in a motion picture. But I just think that Everything Everywhere, if it doesn't get the PGA, it'll certainly get the best cast award, because it is, I just think that that's kind of the one to beat. One final award for the SAG: Outstanding Stunt Ensemble in a Motion Picture: Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Top Gun: Maverick, and The Woman King. Perri, what's winning best stunt ensemble?
I'm glad you brought this up, and you two are probably going to be glad you brought this up, because my pick for this category is Top Gun: Maverick.
Excellent. I agree. I feel like that's the movie to beat for best stunt ensemble. Jeff?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the movie that has been snubbed all season. And I'm going to say Woman King.
Oh, I like Jeff's pick better than mine.
What are the stunts that they had to do in Top Gun? You're sitting on your ass.
Well, that is all stunt work, and it requires like a pretty, like, especially with the new camera system and the way that they shoot those things, there's a lot of like innovative stunt related things happening, and also the safety that goes into all that. You can't forget that element of it. But I will say, as someone who really does love The Woman King, I'm happy to see it get honored anywhere and everywhere it possibly can. And the stunts in that movie are exceptional.
That actually could be the surprise win for best stunt ensemble. Now, look, Jeff, you bring up a good point. The actors sat in a cockpit, but that was the act. And look, I don't know. I just think it's sort of like, well, if Top Gun's going to win anywhere at the SAG Awards, stunt ensemble will be the one. The place to do it.
I don't think Black Panther would win either. Like, I think Woman King and Black Panther are like the top two for me. I'm just surprised, with the Top Gun love here.
Well, I think no, I'm going with Top Gun for this one. I just love that there are so many categories here that we've been talking about across all these different award shows now, where it's not a lock, where you could argue this or argue that. We're overthinking things to pieces here, but that is what we do here on FYC. So let us know in the comments section below what you think of the conversation today, who you think is going to win the top prize at the Producers Guild Awards. We would love to know. You only got like one day to make your predictions before it's announced. And we're going to have our reactions with this on the next episode of FYC. Please make sure you subscribe to Perri Nemiroff's YouTube channel. And big thanks to our sponsor, Above the Line. Whew, that was a lot to talk about here on FYC. We got lots more to come. So until the next episode of FYC, see you later.